Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Surprise, I'm doing this video a day earlier than my usual Friday schedule because as you know, I've been hyping this up for a few weeks now. I just finished watching the Google conference that featured the Google Pixel 7 and 7 Pro and the Google Watch. And as promised, I'm going to be giving you my first impressions and thoughts after the conference and some information about what I pre-ordered because yes, I pre-ordered a few things and I'm very excited to talk about them with you. So let's get right into this. Also, before we begin, let me know in the comments if you pre-ordered anything, if you have thoughts about the conference, if you watched it or are watching it, and I love to hear your perspective. So let me know. And one last thing, I should also mention that I am not a tech YouTuber, so if this is the first time that you're getting onto my channel, hello, welcome, but I'm not a tech YouTuber. I am just someone who is a big fan of the Google Pixel phones, and I have had every single version of the Google Pixel phones since they first came out. So I have a lot of thoughts, and I feel like I have that level of expertise there in just real life use. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. Okay, so the first thing that I want to touch upon is right at the very beginning of the conference. I'm not gonna remember anyone's names, but somebody was talking about just the Pixel experience in general, and it gave me Apple vibes, but in the best way, because if you think about Apple, Apple has always been a fan of like creating multiple devices, but there is a level of synchronicity happening, and I think that's what is a huge appeal to a lot of Apple fans, and we're seeing that here with the Pixel devices too, and the word Pixel and just the association with it now, because it's not just a phone now, it is the watch and it's also a tablet, which they mentioned in today's conference. So there's a whole experience happening, and what I loved about what the person said in today's conference is that the experience is not just about the device and just like it's a Pixel, but also the aesthetics in terms of hardware and software, which is something that I talk about in all of my Google Pixel videos on the channel. I absolutely love the aesthetic of the Pixels. Not just the hardware and how it physically looks, but also the software and how bubbly and the color palettes and all of those great things that are now associated with Pixel devices. So I am super glad that they acknowledge that and they are still emphasizing and prioritizing that, because that is a huge reason why I invest in the Pixel phones. Aesthetics are very important to me. Of course, that's not going to be important to everyone else, but again, this video is about my opinion, right? So I am super glad that they acknowledge that, and you're gonna see if you go to either the Google conference replay or if you see on like tech YouTuber videos and stuff like that, you're going to see that those aesthetics trickle into every single device that they displayed in today's conference, which is the phones, 7 Pro, the watch, and a tablet. And I anticipate that whole synchronicity element is going to equate to not only are the phones physically and software-wise looking the same and complementing one another, they are also going to literally sync together really well, I'm assuming, which if you have any experience with the Apple experience with the Apple experience, you'll know that that is a huge benefit to all of the Apple devices. They just sync really well together, and I think that's why a lot of people love to use Apple devices. Okay, another thing that was mentioned at the conference that I personally really liked is that they had an emphasis on sustainability. So a lot of the products that they talked about, those 3 main products, there is a lot of recycled content and material being used to build these products. I believe a couple of the products have 100% recycled material. So absolutely love that they are focusing on sustainability. I find that to be very valuable in a company, especially a tech company. Okay, one other initial thought that I wanted to focus on in general, not product specific, is the security and the privacy efforts that they are putting in place with all of these devices. So they said that the Pixel 7 and 7 Pro are the most secure and the most private smartphones. Like, that's what they quoted. So that was very bold and interesting to hear from them. And I can see when they were going through different examples and settings that you can go into the phone and, access, that they really are putting a huge focus on security and privacy and letting you have the control in that, so you can choose what you want to share, what you don't want to share, and how you want your phone to function in terms of security and privacy. So I found that to be very valuable as well. Yeah, oh, another thing that was mentioned in terms of security and privacy is a VPN. So they are offering a VPN through Google One at no charge, which I thought was super, super cool. A lot of the times, at least at this current moment, VPNs are usually accessed through like a third party or like an app or a different program or something like that, not necessarily associated and embedded within a phone. So I thought that was a really cool development. Oh, another thing that was mentioned with the security and privacy is that they already have 5 years lined up of updates. So you're guaranteed to get 5 years of updates once you have like a Google device. They are committed to making sure that this is constantly evolving and adapting to the, you know, the world climate and stuff like that. So that was also pretty cool. It also is like a great selling point to continuously invest in Google Pixel devices. Okay, before I get into what I pre-ordered, because yes, I did pre-order multiple things, let's talk about very briefly the specifics on the 3 devices that were most of interest at this conference, which was the tablet, the phones, the 7 Pro, and the watch. So starting with the tablet, I'll be very brief on the tablet because that's not like in my main interest, but the tablet looks really, really good. They are using materials that make the tablet look very refined, and I think what they're trying to do is emphasize that this tablet is not something that you're gonna just chuck in the corner. They want you to display this tablet, they want you to use this tablet and feel good using this tablet, and I like the approach of something that's a little bit more refined and sophisticated when it comes to tablets, because to be honest, I am that person that has chucked a tablet to the side because it's mostly not as useful or resourceful as like my phone or another device or something like that. So I like the approach that they're going with it in terms of aesthetics, but usefulness and resourcefulness. I think that's all I'm gonna say about the tablet because I'm not really that interested in the tablet, to be honest with you, and that's a bit of foreshadowing into what I did and did not pre-order. But let's move on to the watch because I am very interested in this watch. I have been for a really long time. I have always wanted a Google watch ever since I started investing in the Pixel phones because, again, it's all about that synchronicity and having everything sync really well together. And while the Fitbit watch, which is what I have right now, I have a video on that, while it does fantastically with syncing across multiple kinds of phones, I wanted something that was much more dedicated and specific to Google phones. I don't know, I just wanted to have that that closeness. That's something that we see a lot with Apple devices and the Apple Watch. Is that what it's called? And the iPhone. So I'm super glad that they finally released this watch. This watch has been, you know, in talks for a really, really long time. And I will say, one con to this watch, I can't believe I'm going straight to the con, but the con to this watch is that it is expensive. It is $350 for this watch, and it's the first Google Pixel watch. So pretty pricey, and it kind of hurt to see that price, but that's the one con, at least for now. In terms of pros, I think the watch is super cool. In terms of aesthetics, the way that it looks hardware-wise, it is sleek. I think it is super, super pretty. It's gonna look really nice on someone's wrist. And again, they focused a lot on aesthetics. So in terms of how it looks, the watch head or the face, it looks really nice. I think they compared it to a water droplet, so it fits really nice and flush on your hand, and it looks really good. It doesn't have like a bunch of stuff going on the edges, on the bezel and stuff. So I really, really love that. They had a bunch of different customization options, so many, which was super impressive because it wasn't just a watch and a band, and you get the band in a couple of different sizes, which is usually my experience with Fitbit. But with this watch, you can get different kinds of bands straight from the Google store in all sorts of different colors and styles. If you're an athletic person, if you like to keep it more classy, they have a leather option. They have something in between. And of course, they had color palettes. I will say they had color palettes across the entire line of Pixel devices, which is what I mentioned earlier in the video in terms of like their aesthetics. So there's a color palette going on with the watches as well. You could get all sorts of different colors, not just on the band, but you can get different color options on the watch itself, like the head itself. So you can get like a rosy gold kind of color. That's not what they called it. I think they called it champagne or something like that. Then they have like a dark black color, and then they have a silver color. So there's all sorts of different customizations that you can do just from the physicality of it, just like from the hardware. So it can really fit your personality and your needs, which I absolutely love. That is something that is important to me. And then they also have a lot of customization in terms of the watch faces and the software and stuff like that. So that is going to be exciting to see, especially because that is something that I mentioned in my pros and cons video with my Fitbit. The watch faces are just, I can't stand them on the Fitbit. So I'm very, very excited to see all of the different options that I can do on the Google Pixel Watch. And they had a lot of different features. There were a lot of like health features, sleeping features, just overall health and wellness. They really curated it so that it can fit your needs. And so I just think the whole overall approach of looking at this watch in a customizable and personable way is a good approach, because not everybody wants a watch that does the same exact thing. We all have different needs for our watches. For an example, I like a highly customizable watch that has a lot of different things that I can do, and the interface and stuff like that on my watch. Whereas my husband Ian, he likes things super basic. He really doesn't want anything too smart with his smartwatch, although he wants a smartwatch. So it really makes it possible to have a watch do whatever it is that you want it to do, right? So I think that's a cool approach, and I am super excited to see how this is going to go with the Pixel Watch. I will also say that they mentioned the battery life on this watch, and that the battery life is a 1 full day. Now that can be subjective. Some people might say like that is really short, and other people might say like, wow, that's pretty great given the amount of things that it does. And I'm the person that's on the latter side of that. My husband, of course, because he likes things more basic, he was like, that's pretty short. But I will just give a nugget of my personal practice. Whenever I put this watch to charge, the Fitbit, I put it to charge when I go to shower, so it charges pretty much every single day anyway. So a full day's worth of battery life is actually fantastic for me, because I'm going to put it to charge anyway. So I'll never have a situation where it'll die, if that makes sense. Unless I was like out and about and for multiple days and I didn't have my charger with me, which has never happened. So I also wanted to mention that to some people if you're interested. And I think that's all I've got in terms of my thoughts with the watch. Okay, the last devices that I'm going to talk about before I mention what I pre-ordered and the details of my pre-order, of course, is the Pixel 7 and the Pixel 7 Pro, the phones. Now, I am pulling up a little bit of details on this because there were a lot of details that were super impactful for me, especially because this is the device that I was mainly focusing on when I went to watch the conference. So again, I'm not a tech YouTuber. I'm not going to go through all of the nitty gritty, but I am going to highlight some things that were really important to me that they mentioned in the conference about the phone. So let's start with the most important thing, right? The camera. The camera has improved. It has a lot of improvements, and I think they're fantastic improvements. And again, selling point for me, once the camera continues to improve, I'm going to continuously invest in the Pixel phones. That is the main reason why I get Google Pixel phones. They are the best of the best, and it has proven to be so with me hands-on using the Pixel phones and other Android phones and iPhones. So let me just briefly mention the camera things if you are a camera nerd like I am, but they have triple rear cameras on the 7 Pro. The 7 only has a dual rear camera system. So there are major differences. There was a time where the Pixel phones had very subtle differences. So people were like, why would I pay more if I'm getting practically the same thing from the cheaper option? But there's a big difference right there in terms of the camera. Now, another thing that's related to the camera, the Pro has a wide lens, ultra wide lens, and telephoto lens, whereas the 7 does not have the telephoto lens. So another thing to take note of there. And yeah, the camera, like when they were showcasing this camera, there were a lot of in-camera app features as well. So a lot of inclusivity kind of efforts where they're making sure that they keep up to date with making sure that like the color of someone's skin is being accurately shown in photos. So they're doing more efforts in that. Another thing was like the zoom lens. They zoomed in up to 10 times. And they showed examples of these photos and they were so good. Now, I'm not a big zooming camera kind of person, but if I ever needed to use that, I know that I'm going to get a crisp photo. So that was super cool to see. And on the same note, they also have these ultra wide lens on the cameras, so you can do macro photos. So if you want to get really close, and I believe they said up to 3 centimeters close to the subject, you're gonna get a highly detailed photo. So that stuff is super cool. Another thing I just remembered, they have improved sort of like their photo editing experience. So in the Google Pixel 6 series, they introduced something where like you can remove stuff from your photo if it was like in the background and it distracted the subject. And I will say from personal experience, I don't think it was the best on the Google Pixel 6 phones. In the examples used in the conference for the Google Pixel 7 phones, it looks so much better. It looks like, you know, they really improved it so that it doesn't look clunky and weird when you're trying to remove something from the background, and it actually looks seamless. It looks like you actually removed something in a proper way. Another thing that was mentioned was the blurring. So they mentioned like if you're taking a photo and there's even just a little bit of blur or, you know, a lot of blur, there is a smart feature to remove as much blur as possible. And they use examples from subtle blurs to very bad blurs and how the phone was able to fix it to make it look very crisp. And I'm just like, looking at it from the perspective of me using like Galaxy phones and iPhones and seeing that little tiny bit of blur, and then looking at the examples that they used in the conference for this phone, those super blurry photos that they fixed looked 10 times better than any average normal photo that I would take on a Galaxy phone. Maybe not the Apple phones. The Apple phones actually are pretty impressive with the camera, but still, super impressive to take a photo that came out really bad and turn it into something incredible. I'm trying to think if I remember anything else that was notable about the camera, but those are the main things. Of course, they had like examples of like astro photos, so you can take photos of the sky and stuff like that. That's not something that I typically focus on, but that was really cool to see as well. And so they just have overall improved the camera on enough degree where I think it is absolutely worth investing in the 7 series, at least in my opinion. Another couple of specs that I just want to briefly mention in terms of the phones. They mentioned the Tensor, the Google Tensor, a lot in the conference, and so they're really focusing on it, and I want to mention that here because I did a video where I had a lot of issues with this phone, the Google Pixel 6 Pro, and so they are saying that this Google Tensor chip, I believe it's a processor, it's going to really improve the experience of the phone, software, hardware-wise, and it's constantly like helping your phone do the best job that it can do. So when I was having a lot of those little issues here and there, a lot of you mentioned that they were super serious issues, but I'm a little bit more forgiving. So it's good to know that they are acknowledging that in a way here when they talk about the Tensor. So we'll see what happens. Another thing that I wanted to mention was the 24+ hour battery life, because that was also something that I mentioned in my previous video where I had issues with this phone not lasting half a day. So we'll also see how that goes. Another thing aside from the VPN that I mentioned earlier, they are now going to give you multiple options to open your phone. So there was a time where the phone went through a fingerprint sensor in the back that you physically put your finger on. Then they went to the face recognition. Then they went to the fingerprint recognition that's on the screen, which is what's currently going on here with the 6 Pro. Now they're giving you the option to do 2 things. You can do the face recognition or you can do the fingerprint sensor. The face recognition to unlock your phone, they say, is super, super improved. So like you could just really quickly look at your phone and it'll unlock. So we'll see how that goes. I also wonder, like, if you're wearing a mask outside, how's that gonna work? So maybe that's why they give you the option of 2 unlock features. That's all that I really wanted to mention. These are just the things that were on the top of my head after watching the conference. Of course, if I miss anything, please do let me know in the comments if something struck out to you that you want to chat about. So yeah, that's all for my initial thoughts. Let's get into what I pre-ordered. Okay, so I pre-ordered 2 things. I pre-ordered a phone and I pre-ordered the watch. I don't think that was a surprise. I think everybody knew that I was going to do this. And I did say in this video that that price tag hurt a lot for the watch because it was $350. It really hurt me. I really almost did not order the watch because of that, because of how pricey it is for a watch, especially the first of its kind. But I tried to validate this for myself, and I'll get into that in a second. For the watch, I ordered the color palette of the Hazel band, which is like their active band, which looks very similar to this, just like silicone. And it's in the hazel color, which I think is like a beige-ish gold kind of color. And then the watch itself, like the head, it's like a champagne color. And that champagne color almost looks like a rosy gold, almost. Not too rosy, more on the gold side, but there's like a hint of rosiness to it. So that is the color palette that I went with. That is the band that I went with, and that is the included band. I did not buy an additional band, which you can purchase in the Google store. I just decided to go with the basic one because that is the one that I usually use anyway. There's also an option to do like, get like, what is it called? 4G on the watch. I did not purchase that option because I don't need all of that for my watch. So I just got like the Bluetooth option, which was $350. So yeah, it does get more expensive if you want to get like 4G on your watch. So yeah, that is the watch. That's what I purchased there. Now the phone, I pre-ordered the Google Pixel 7 Pro. The reason that I went with the Pro is because the camera, the camera has more options, more features than the regular Google Pixel 7. So of course, if I'm going to invest in a new Google Pixel phone, I'm going to get the one that has the more camera forward features. So that's why I went with that. It was priced at $899. And the color that I got is hazel, which I'm so freaking excited about. Hazel is like that goldish kind of color, so it matches perfectly with the watch option that I went with. The reason why I'm so excited about that is because, of course, I love like that color palette, but also it is typically very hard to pre-order on the day of the Google conference. All of my experiences trying to pre-order a Pixel phone, the website crashes like crazy, and like it will take me almost an hour to pre-order a phone after the conference. In this instance, I was able to do it immediately, seamlessly, easily. It was great. And hazel is the color that is like their special color of the year almost. So like if you look back at the other Google Pixel phones, they have a black, they have a white, and then they have a special color. So this year it's the white, the black, and then the hazel color. So at least for the 7 Pro. For the 7, I think it's like a light green color. So got the hazel, so freaking excited about it. I got the lowest memory, which is 128 gigs, I believe, just so that it can be as affordable as possible. I got it under the Google Fi service because that's I use Google Fi as my provider. And then I did a trade-in. So this is how I validated it in my head for me purchasing the watch, is because after I put in my information about my trade-in to trade in the Google Pixel 6 Pro, it is estimated at about like $430 or $450. So technically the Google Pixel 7 Pro is priced at around $479 for me after I do my whole trade-in situation. So I found that to be extremely worth it. And then that price, along with the watch, ends up being less than the price of just one full-priced Google Pixel 7 Pro. So in my head, that was validation. I was like, okay, I don't feel too bad about this, but realistically, that's pretty dang pricey for a watch. So Google Pixel 7 Pro in the hazel color, and then the Google Pixel watch in the champagne/hazel color. Those are the things that I pre-ordered. So freaking excited about it. I'm getting both of them. It is estimated to get here next week. And they are pretty dang awesome when it comes to shipping. Like, they will ship it and it will get here the next day or in 2 days at the most. So I know it's gonna get here next week. I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited to get in there and start using this camera. Did I mention about the Google Pixel phone in terms of like the hardware aesthetics? They have like an aluminum sort of band that goes across the phone camera, which I think is really nice and sleek. And because I got the hazel color, it looks just like a shiny gold almost. So that looks really nice. I will personally say that I hate that I have to get such a beautiful looking phone and then I have to put a case over it. So I'm most likely going to get a clear case, but given my experience with the Google Pixel 6 case from the Google store, I'm not going to get that clear case from the Google store. So once I get the phone, I will look for a case afterward. I know that's pretty reckless in some people's minds, but whatever, it is what it is. I have done it many times in the past and it's fine. So I think that is all for this video. I hope it was interesting. I know it's a bit frazzled and not as refined as what you'll probably see on a tech YouTuber video, mostly because this is just my initial thoughts. This is just what has popped into my head, and I just wanted to give everybody a super, super realistic outlook on the conference that is not, that is a little bit more approachable, if that makes sense. And I hope you liked this approach. Let me know in the comments. Chat with me in the comments. And I have noticed that a bunch of you have started following me on Instagram and TikTok. So if you feel like it's more convenient to chat with me there, feel free to DM me. I am always down to chat more about the Pixel or whatever else you want to chat about. But that is all for this week's video. Thank you so much for being here, and I will talk to you in next week's video.